Hello, and welcome to this episode of Moments in Credit Union History. Today, I'm pleased to welcome to the show Dennis Dollar. Dennis has been involved in the credit union movement for a number of years. He started as a recent college graduate in Mississippi when he was elected to the House of Representatives at a very young age of 22. From there, he went on to be CEO of a credit union in Mississippi. He was appointed to the NCUA and eventually became chairman of the NCUA. Today, Dennis runs a consulting firm that serves over 700 credit unions. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Stephanie, it's great to be with you.
Excellent. And what I failed to mention in the introduction is you went from that Ole Miss graduate a few years ago to being voted the most influential person in the credit union industry in 2017 by Credit Union Times Magazine. So congratulations on that honor.
Yeah, that was quite an honor, and I was not only thrilled but somewhat surprised to get it. As a former regulator, I figured I'd probably got knocked out in the first round when they were when the readers of Credit Union Times were voting. But it was quite an honor to be selected as the most influential credit union leader of the last 25 years. A part of that is that you've been around for at least 25 years, but hopefully we've left some good marks in the credit union industry. I'm a true believer.
Absolutely. So take me along for the ride. Tell me how you went from graduating from college, dipping your toes into the political arena to where we got to today.
Well, I've always been interested in politics. I didn't come from a political family, but I remember in the seventh grade, I mapped out the Mississippi elections and determined that the year I graduated from college would be an election year, and that you had to be 21 to run for the state House of Representatives, and I was going to run. And so when I graduated from Ole Miss back in 1975, that was election year. I went and filed my papers, and I ran. I ran against a man who had been a two-term legislator in the state of Mississippi, and got elected. I knocked on every door in the district. I said, we need some young blood. We need some new ideas. We need somebody who will work hard, climb upstairs, knock on doors. And so I did get elected, and was one of the youngest members of the state House of Representatives in the history of the state of Mississippi. But how that kind of transitions me into credit unions is that's where I learned what a credit union was when I was making the laws for the state of Mississippi. And little did I know at that time that some about 15 to 20 years later, I would actually be running a credit union in Gulfport, Mississippi, a $32 million credit union, the Gulfport VA Federal Credit Union at that time. It subsequently is converted to a community charter, and now it's the Gulf Coast Community Federal Credit Union. But I served there for 7 years, and then in 1997, my political background and my credit union background kind of came together when I was appointed by President Clinton to the National Credit Union Administration, the NCUA board, and confirmed by the United States Senate. And then in 2001, President George W. Bush elevated me from board member to chairman of the NCUA board, and I served as chairman for 3.5 years. So I served a total of 7 years, 3.5 as a board member, 3.5 as chairman. And I like to say I was appointed by Clinton and elevated by Bush. That was one of the few things that Clinton and Bush agreed on. But it was that brought me into credit union regulation at a very key time in the history of the industry, because we had just lost the Supreme Court decision in the ATT case, which was going to eliminate much of the field of membership expansion that had been done over the past decade. And a lot of credit unions were going to have to unwind that. It was going to be very devastating for the long-term future of credit unions. We at NCUA, along with CUNA, NAFCU, CUNA Mutual, all of those that represented the industry, went to Congress and said, look, the impact of this, safety and soundness wise, the impact on the industry, it's an impact we cannot afford to take. And Congress responded, as you know, passed the Credit Union Membership Access Act in 1998. And I was at the NCUA on the board and subsequently chairman at the time over the next 3 to 5 years that we implemented the Credit Union Membership Access Act. So I'm thrilled by the selection as the most influential credit union leader the last 25 years. But one of the things that put me in that position was that I was at NCUA at such a watershed moment for credit unions that I was in a position to have a lot of impact on field of membership, on any of a number of issues. We, during my administration, pushed through the Reg Flex program, which was earned regulatory flexibility for credit unions. We put forward the Incidental Powers Act that enabled credit unions to be able to expand their authorities. We pushed through probably the most progressive field of membership rules, even more progressive probably than they are today, where they have been cut back some over the course of subsequent years. We did some streamlining and some downsizing within the agency. We pushed through the Access Across America initiative that had credit unions adopting underserved areas to the tune of about 95 million Americans living in underserved communities that were now eligible to join a credit union that were not when we began that initiative. So it was a great time to be there, to be able to have some impact. And when I left in 2004, I started my consultancy, Dollar Associates. I worked with my partner Kirk Cuevas, who was my chief of staff when I was at NCUA. And we've been staying in the credit union movement. Had the chance to leave and go to Wall Street and go to some of those firms that want to see credit unions converting into banks. Didn't want to do that. I wanted to help credit unions do credit union better. And that's what I've been doing since that time, and I'm still doing it today.
That's excellent. So your time, it seems like it was a natural progression, but it isn't always that way. So I think that that's a wonderful story that you were able to go from a credit union into the regulatory arena. Tell me who were your most influential mentors through that process?
Well, the person who was most influential in getting me to the NCUA board was Senator Trent Lott, who was the senator from my home state of Mississippi and was the Senate Majority Leader at that time. And a lot of people don't realize that the NCUA board is a three-member board. It's appointed by the president, but by law, they have to have members from both political parties. So President Clinton already had two members from his party, two Democrats on the board. So the third member, when that seat came open, had to be a Republican. Well, traditionally, what the president will do is he will defer to the highest ranking Republican in the Senate at that particular time and ask them if they have a nominee from their party. So again, talking about how things work out, and that there is probably some divine providential treatment here in my circumstance, is that it just so happened that when President Clinton had to choose a Republican for this position, my home state senator and a longtime friend of mine, Trent Lott, was the person who would be making that recommendation. So he contacted me and said, well, how would you like to serve on the NCUA board? Well, I'm down in Gulfport running my credit union. And I had to do a little bit of research to find out, is it a part-time job? Is it a full-time job? Do I have to move to Washington? Can I still do it here in Mississippi? And I learned that it's a full-time job, and you do move to Washington, but you can have a tremendous impact. And everything that was going on in the industry at that time, the lawsuit was going to the Supreme Court. We knew that field of membership was in jeopardy. I told him, sure, if you can make it happen, Senator, I'll be more than glad to serve. And he made it happen, and I was sworn in, served, and it was without question, it was the best thing for my life, for my career, for my family. Being able to leave Mississippi, go to Washington, be able to experience the Washington political scene as a presidential appointee, and to be able to really impact an industry that I truly, truly believed in.
Sure, that's a fabulous story. I'm going to put you on the hot seat a little bit here, Dennis. If you had one piece of advice for the current makeup of the NCUA board, based on your experiences in their own positions, what would it be?
Well, it would be that you can both be a good safety and soundness regulator and still create a regulatory environment that allows credit unions to grow. Sometimes the folks at NCUA feel that the two are mutually exclusive, that you have to put a lot of restrictions on credit unions to make sure that they remain safe and sound. And in doing so, if that adversely impacts their growth, well, then so be it. I think that what we proved during the time that I was there is that you can maintain safety and soundness, because when we left, the capital level of credit unions was higher than it had been at any time previous to that in history. But at the same time, we had expanded options for credit unions from a regulatory perspective, both in the field of membership arena, as well as with RegFlex, incidental powers, underserved areas, and the like. And what I think we tried to prove, and I think subsequent, if you look at the numbers from the summary of trends reports from NCUA over the years, that the credit unions that are growing are performing the best in every metric by which you would judge a successful credit union. So therefore, I think that what we did proved, and I think it's something that NCUA board members still today have got to be reminded of. and that is that the ability of a credit union to grow, to gain scale, and to be able to be more competitive in a very tough marketplace is actually the foundation upon which you build safety and soundness. Because if you cannot grow, if you cannot bring about scale, if you cannot meet your members' needs, if you can't offer the technology that's needed, if you can't be able to offer the products and services that are needed, your members are going to go somewhere else. They have plenty of other options, and that will impact the safety and soundness of the credit union. So it is actually possible to be able to have safety and soundness and a growth oriented regulatory environment at the same time. And in fact, I think the two work together very, very well.
Absolutely. We have an exhibit here at the museum that is one of Ed Filene's speeches, where one of the quotes that we've extrapolated from that is that credit unions need to learn how to become big without being biggity. And I think that that certainly speaks to the exact same story that you're speaking of.
No, you're correct. And I always found it kind of interesting that the bankers in particularly would consider that when a credit union got bigger, they were no longer a credit union anymore, and they ought to be treated like a bank. When in actuality, the reason they've gotten bigger is because they did such a good job of being a credit union. They met the members' needs, the members stuck with them, the members brought other members, and the growth came because they were being a great credit union. They were doing credit union better each and every day. And as a result of that, they grew. And the bankers may not have liked that growth, but that growth came not because they were acting more like a bank as the banks charge. It was actually because they were acting more like a credit union and the members were responding.
Exactly. Absolutely. That's spot on. Terrific. Well, this has been another episode of Moments in Credit Union History, brought to you by CUNY Mutual. Thanks for being with us today, Dennis.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Stephanie.